Mr. Stanton, bullying in schools, particularly anti-gay bullying, is a major concern. As mayor, what would you do to address this problem and to ensure every child has access to a quality public education?
Excellent question. I mentioned in my opening statement that I view my relationship with Equality Arizona as one of partnership. I was proud to partner with the organization to vote for domestic partner benefits, to create a domestic partner registry. I mentioned Arizona Together. Working on bullying is the next frontier relative to the city's leadership and the city's partnership with Equality Arizona. It is wrong. It is simply wrong for our LGBT youth to feel unwelcome at school. This is very personal for my family and I. My wife, Nicole, had a brother who was bullied at school and beaten because he happened to be gay. And this is going to be a personal passion of mine as the mayor of this city, is to make sure that we are putting all of the necessary resources, training the local police officers, working with teachers, working with counselors, our library staff that deal with so many youth, our after-school centers. All of us need to be focused on this issue of identifying bullying and putting a stop to it and having a zero-tolerance policy. All of our youth, LGBT youth, have to feel welcome at school. They represent the future of this city, and it's a job that has to get done. Thank you.
Mr. Mattox.
Thank you. I want to recognize Chris Wilson, Detective Wilson, who is our liaison with the LGBT community. Chris and I had a long conversation about bullying and about the issues that we're discussing right now. And I want to say, first of all, we have laws to address bullying. It's assault and it's those types of things. But if they aren't working, then I want to work with our police department to identify how we do it better. I want to work with the school districts to make sure that there is a zero tolerance on bullying, regardless. Yeah, you know, I'm a big guy, but as a kid, I was a big guy. You know, I was in 7th grade, I was over 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds. The 9th graders loved to pick on me because I was big. And I was bullied myself. I understand what it's about. I understand, regardless of orientation, bullying is no fun. And we should protect all kids in school. As I said, schools should be safe havens going at and coming home, regardless of orientation. And if we need to change the laws to make that happen, to make our schools safer, then I'm definitely willing to work with our police department to identify how we do that.
Mr. Gullett.
I look forward to working with Equality Arizona on this issue. Bullying has to be, we have to have a zero tolerance for bullying, there's no question about it. But we also have to work with the legislature and try and pass the laws that will help stop this bullying and make it a more serious crime. It is very important that kids feel that they're in a safe place when they're in the classroom and that they can study without fear of being harassed or bullied at any time during that day at school.
Mr. Eichenaur, did you want to chime in? Okay, very good. If it's possible to ask a politician a yes or no question, I'll give it a try.
No, it's not.
Start with Greg and cut him off right away. Mayor Gordon has participated in previous gay pride parades. As mayor, would you consider participating in the gay pride parade? Greg?
Yes, as I have for 10 years. Yes, I would.
Mr. Eichenaur?
Yes.
Mr. Gullett?
Yes, and I already have paid for my float for this year.
Mr. Mattox?
Yes, I enjoyed it last year, and I look forward to doing it this year as well.
Not bad. Not bad. Let's start this question with Mr. Eichenaur. Marriage and legal recognition of LGBT relationships is a major issue for many within the community. Where do you stand on the various proposals for relationship recognition for gay and lesbian couples, including domestic partnerships, civil unions, and marriage?
As a libertarian, I do not believe government should be involved in sanctioning marriages. I would welcome the opportunity to remove government from that arena, and I would certainly do whatever it takes to assist any effort to get government out of the business of sanctioning marriages.
Mr. Gullett?
Marriage as a religious union, I think, should be up to the churches and to religious institutions. As a civil relationship, I think that the government should not discriminate in any way.
So you would support a statewide civil union measure?
I think the government, I think the government should not discriminate against people in any way in a civil union.
Mr. Mattox?
Thank you. I'm proud of what the City of Phoenix has done in supporting domestic partner benefits, in supporting domestic partner registry. As my perspective is that we should all work together to make equality happen. And I'm sorry I'm stuttering here, but I want to make sure that I say this properly. I have many friends who value their relationships as much as I value my relationship with Sherry, my wife. I don't care what your orientation is. If you love someone, then you should have the opportunity to spend your life with that person. And we, the government, shouldn't say no to you in that regard. So I want to work with Equality Arizona to move it forward within the purview of what the mayor of the City of Phoenix can do.
Mr. Stanton?
I support equality.
Wow, we got a yes and that. Very good. Mr. Gullett, currently the city code prohibits discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations based on race, sex, national origin, and other classes, but it does not include protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression. Will you, in your role as mayor, advocate for these protections to be added to the city code?
I think we've got to work hard. We've got to look at it. We've got to study all of the issues that surround it. We haven't debated this issue. It works in San Francisco, as I talked to Jimmy about earlier tonight. Thanks, Jimmy. And it's something we've got to really look at hard, and we've got to have that open debate. We've got to bring everybody to the table and have that conversation. And that's going to be the hallmark of my administration as mayor, that we are willing to sit down and talk about these tough issues and have a conversation and make decisions. And they're not always going to be popular decisions, but they're going to be fair and they're going to be right.
And what would be your hesitation for saying that that would be inclusive?
Well, I think we've got to bring everybody to the table. I think we've got to hear from the entire community, and I think that that's an important first step in this, in any new laws that we're going to pass.
Mr. Mattox, Mr. Stanton? Mr. Mattox?
Well, I think I've made my previous statement pretty much speaks for itself in that regard, so I'm going to stand with my previous statement.
Mr. Stanton?
The answer is, of course, I would support non-discrimination based on sexual orientation with regard to housing. And if there's any federal restrictions, I would go to Washington and lobby to end any federal restrictions on that as well. It's critically important that we send a message that we are an inclusive community. That is part of what's going to help us build the economy for the future, is to send a message to anybody that's thinking about locating here. We're an inclusive community. It's very, very important.
It should be pretty simple. Government should not be discriminating against any party other than what they bring to the table as their skills.
Switching gears just a little bit, there's been, we'll start with Mr. Mattox. There's been a lot of press and a lot of controversy since the creation of the Director of Public Safety position, currently being held by Jack Harris, who also played the dual role as the Chief of Police. He is now currently Director of Public Safety with an acting interim Chief of Police. If you were mayor, would you support continuing that kind of dual role, two separate positions, there's subsequent questions that have come in from the public as well regarding the double and potential triple dipping of Chief Harris. So if you could address that as well, that would be great.
Well, first of all, I will say that I have been advocating through this entire process that Public Safety Manager Harris should have been over public safety and not just exclusively over police. The intent of that was that he would be over public safety, fire, and homeland security. It should have been that way. But the city manager decided that homeland security and police were to be handled by the public safety manager and that fire was being handled. There's a coordinated effort there. So it made sense when we started that process. Unfortunately, over time, it has become very controversial. And I was the one who agreed that we need to move Jack out of that position so that we can get to the truth of what the situation is with the question on the kidnapping statistics. And I'm very comfortable now with the position that he's in, which is focusing on homeland security. And I would support that we maintain, if we're going to have a public safety manager, that public safety manager should be over both police, fire, and homeland security, and we should have a separate chief of police.
I called for Jack Harris to go into retirement. I've made that point. When Jack Harris went into the drop program 10 years ago, he announced that he was going to retire from being police chief. He spent 5 years. He received his payments for the drop program, which is a retirement program. And then a month later was made the public safety manager. What the drop program is supposed to do is it's supposed to give you the opportunity to determine who your successor is going to be. That wasn't done. 5 years later, after he had retired as police chief, we still don't have a successor for police chief. We haven't had a police chief. We need to have a police chief for this police department. Jack Harris, the whole retirement thing has sent the wrong message to our rank and file police officers, and what we need to do is we need to have a national search. We need to find a new police chief, whether he's from our department or from someplace in the nation, and we need to give our police department the leadership that they deserve.
Sir, would you continue to support two positions, a police chief and the director of public safety?
No, absolutely not. We don't need both positions. We had Jack in there because he was police chief and he was public safety manager. And by the way, we need to eliminate double dipping altogether. If I'm mayor of Phoenix, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to end double dipping because it holds people down. It causes us to lose job opportunities in our city, and we need to eliminate that policy.
Mr. Stanton.
Well, broader context, I think Jack Harris overall has done a very good job as a leader of the Phoenix Police Department. That is an important point to make. But he's made some mistakes, and the honest truth is that apparently inaccurate information was provided to the federal government. Inaccurate information was told to Mr. Harris, and even after that, instead of admitting a mistake, which is a critically important leadership characteristic, they sort of dug even deeper. And as a result, I think we have a little bit of credibility problem with Washington, because remember, the original issue was presenting information as part of a federal grant application. So I'm not going to violate the charter. I think it's inappropriate for any person who's on the city council or the mayor to talk about personnel issues, whether someone should be fired or not fired, et cetera. Our city charter is the constitution of the city, and it has to be followed. It's very appropriate. But I would have told the city manager how disappointed I was in that situation, and that we do have a credibility problem and I have to work really hard to overcome it. And I think that the time will be coming soon for a new leader of the Phoenix Police Department, and it is critically important that we do a national search, because we are one of the leading police departments in the entire country. We should do a national search for that position.
And over and above the kidnapping issue regarding the director of public safety and a police chief under dual positions?
Yeah, I think there should be a single position. Thank you.
Mr. Eichenaur?
I support the elimination of the position currently held by Jack Harris.
Thank you.
Donna, could I have a follow-up
Certainly.
very quickly? I want to remind everyone that during this period of time, our crime rate has gone down over 25%. This has been during the period of time that Jack Harris has been serving in this dual capacity. He has been a great leader for our police department. He has done great work for our community. Unfortunately, and to contradict what Mr. Stanton just said, I was back in Washington just 2 weeks ago, meeting with Homeland Security, meeting with the Department of Justice, talking about how great our programs are here in the city of Phoenix. They still have a great deal of respect for the city of Phoenix Police Department and the programs that we have in place. And they are looking forward to continuing to work with us in the city of Phoenix.